Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this video, I'm going to show you how to put together my free layered fairy SVG. This is a new free SVG available on my website. To find it, go to craftwithsarah.com/free-SVGs or click the link in the description of the video to go straight there. Let's see how to open up the file in Cricut Design Space. When you download my free fairy SVG, it will come contained in a zip folder. You'll need to unzip that folder before you can upload the SVG file into Cricut Design Space. If you're not sure how to do that, check the description of this video because I've included some links to step-by-step tutorials on how to unzip a folder on a Windows machine, a Mac, an iPhone or iPad, and an Android device. Once you've unzipped your folder, open up Cricut Design Space. We're going to click on Upload on the left of the screen and then go into Upload Image. You can now click Browse to find the file on your computer or click to drag it in. I've got it open on my other screen, so I'm going to drag it in. Now this part is really important. Make sure you go to the unzipped version of the folder, and then the file you want to select is the one which starts SVG in the file name. If you choose any of the other files inside that folder, it won't work properly, so make sure you choose the one that starts SVG. I'm going to drag my file in here and let go, and then it will show the preview screen, and this is what your fairy should look like. You can see that all of the colours are in the correct places, so you can see the graphic. If you're seeing all of the different colours and all the different pieces in separate places, so they're all kind of one apart from each other, that means you've uploaded the PNG version and not the SVG. If that's happened to you, don't worry, just click cancel down on the bottom left and then try again. But if yours looks like mine does, then you're good to go. So I'm going to click Upload on the bottom right, and then it will be uploaded to Design Space and appear in my recent uploads. So now I can click on that one and then press Insert Images, and it will appear on my canvas. Now I'm quite zoomed in at the moment, which is why it's come in so big. Here we are at 100%, so this should be how yours looks. You can click on the design and use the width and height boxes to resize it, or you can click and drag the little arrow on the bottom right. So go ahead, get all of your beautiful fairy cut out, and then I'll show you how to stick all of the layers together. Here are my layers for the fairy all cut out, and I've just positioned all of the card into place so I can check I'm happy with the colours and to make sure I haven't accidentally missed anything. I've cut this at 6.5 inches wide, and I would not recommend going any smaller than that because, as you can see, pieces like the eyes on this are really tiny. So if you go any smaller than 6.5 inches in width, I think you're really going to struggle with the eyes. But of course, if you did want to go smaller, you could maybe draw the eyes on instead of using the cutouts. That might be an alternative. Now this design is definitely one of the more complex ones that I have available on my website. It has a lot of layers in it to make all of the lovely details of everything that's going on. Because of that, I'm not going to use foam pads for as many layers as I normally would. We're going to be relying on glue a lot more, but because there's so many layers of card, it's still going to give a really nice depth to it. So I'm going to start with the flower. And let's move all of the other layers off for now. And actually, whilst I've got it here, I will just show you the fairy. So when I was in Design Space, I showed you how you could take the flower off if you wanted to and just cut the fairy. She does look super cute without that flower as well, if you wanted to do it like that. Let's move her over to the side and bring back the flower. So the flower itself is 5 separate layers, 2 green, a white, and then a pale blue on top. Sorry if you're hearing lots of traffic noises. Honestly, I think there's some sort of motorbike convention going on or something because it's just constant motorbikes going by today. I don't know what's happening. Quite annoying when I'm trying to record. But anyway, let's start sticking this flower together. I'm going to start with the 2 green layers. And for the top green layer, I'm going to glue it to the one underneath. The reason for glue is that this is really just being used to create the outline of the leaves, so we don't need that depth of the foam. I'm using Kalau glue, which is my favourite glue for paper craft projects because it doesn't bend or warp the card like some other glues can do. I get it on Amazon, and there's a link in the description of this video to where to find it. And then I decant the glue into these needle tip bottles. And again, I get these on Amazon. You get 12 in a pack. And I'm still on the first one because you can just refill them. The nib is very, very narrow, so it's perfect because it means I'm going to be able to put glue in all of these leaves. Okay, so let's add my glue. It comes out of these bottles really easily. So I want to make sure I have a good amount all the way along, including in the middle, because this design has so many layers. It's going to be quite heavy, so we don't want things falling apart under the weight of all the layers on top. And that's why I'm making sure I'm putting glue into all of these leaves, and then a good amount across the rest of the design. So now I can stick this on. And the nice thing about glue is that if you don't line it up, like I just didn't, then you can pick it up and just move it around until it's lined up. I'm just going to push it down gently because I don't want any of that glue to smush out. Although it does dry clear, but still it's best to try not to have any escape. Alright, the next bit is the yellow. And I am going to use foam pads for this because this is actually the flower sitting on top of the leaves, so I want it to have a little bit of depth. Here's my yellow. So let's turn this upside down and add the foam. The foam pads I use are from Dot and Dab. Again, I get them on Amazon and the link is in the description. I tend to cut them in half as they're quite big. And by cutting them in half, it just means that I don't have to use as many, so they last a little bit longer. So when you're adding foam pads to layered designs, you want to make sure that you get some foam into all of the extremity pieces. So any little bits that stick out, like the feet on this and the head and the arm, you want to make sure there's some foam in there. So you're going to get a really nice firm stick. And then, equally as important, is to put foam pieces into the middle. And that will stop the card from sagging in the middle when all those other layers go on top. We do not want any droopy middles on our fairy. I'm just peeling the tops of the foam pads off to release the stickiness. And you can see this brand of foam pad, they come off so easy. And that's actually why they're my favourite. Some take forever to try and peel it off. And I'm all about making my life easier. So now I'm going to line this up. And then gently just let go. Check I'm happy with the alignment. And then when I'm happy, I can push it down. And the reason I did that was that if I'd messed it up and it wasn't quite lined up right, by just dropping it on to start with, I could have peeled it off and it wouldn't have damaged anything. So I could have had another go. But I'm happy with this. So I'm going to move on to the rest of the flower. For the petals, you can use foam or glue. It is up to you. I'm going to use foam. No, I'm going to use glue. In my head, I was going glue, 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 and then foam came out of my mouth. So not quite sure why my brain wasn't talking properly then. Anyway, I'm going to use glue because I don't want there to be too much depth underneath the fairy. And so I'm just going to turn this over and add my glue on the back. So just like we did before, glue into all of those spaces. And then I'm going to stick it down, line it up. There we go. And now we have this layer, which is the pale blue, and this is just kind of showing the edge of the petals. And again, we're going to use glue for it. So let's add the glue on here. Now, if you don't want to watch through the whole video to find out how to stick this together, then included in the zip folder you downloaded when you got the file, or if you haven't got it yet, go in the description of this video to download it. There is a PDF in there called Assembly Guide, and that has a little picture of every single layer of the fairy design, and they're all numbered, so it tells you what order to stick them together in. And it also tells you which layers to stick with foam and which to stick with glue. So all of my layered SVGs, there's another motorbike, can you hear it? All of my layered SVGs come with an assembly guide, so the free ones on my blog and the paid ones in my shop. Okay, so now that's our flower done, we can start with the fairy. And I don't know if you can actually see, it's not stuck together, so I'm going to be really careful, but this is really thick already. It's lots of different layers, and that's why we're not using too much foam on this design. I'm going to just bring the bottom layer of the fairy. I think this is the bottom 3. There we go. The bottom layer, which is, for me, it's another white layer. And I'm going to use foam for this one because it is the very bottom layer of the fairy. So we want her to kind of be popping out from that flower a little bit. So just like before, the foam goes into all those extremity pieces. And also, one thing to bear in mind is you don't want the foam to go over any gaps in the design. So for example, you wouldn't want any foam to be covering this little gap underneath her arm. And that's because if it does, then you'd see the foam when you flip it over and put it on. And we don't want to actually see that foam. We want it all to be nicely hidden behind the cardstock. So I'm just going to peel these tops off. Then I can stick it down. Okay, oh, got a little bit of paper there. And just like before, line it up. And push down when you're happy. Next, we've got the light blue, which makes up the edge of the back wing. And you'll see there's a little bit of yellow peeking through here. And we need to stick that on first because it's going to be easier to do that from this side. So just take your glue and go around the top of that back wing, just around the edge like that, and then stick the yellow piece over and it will line up against the edges. And then when you turn it round, if I can pick it up, you'll see you just got that yellow poking through. Just adds that extra little bit of detail and it matches the yellow of the daisy. And now we've done that, we can add glue to the rest of it. Make sure you put a little bit on top of that yellow. You can see here I ripped my card a bit when I was cutting it out, which wasn't ideal, but never mind. You can't see it from the front. Let's get that stuck on. And this already has so much depth to it. It's going to be so pretty when it's all finished. I'm excited for this design. Next, we're going to do the other wing, so the top wing. And if I just peel off this blue, got my yellow caught up a little bit. I'm going to stick the yellow down first. The reason my card is kind of stuck together is I'm using some off-brand mats at the moment, not Cricut ones, and I'm not overly impressed with them. because the adhesive on the mat is coming off on my card when I take my card off. It's really not good. Because not only does it mean my mat is not staying sticky because all the adhesive's coming off, but it's making it really hard to separate out my card. Okay, so I've positioned these yellow dots according to the design in Design Space. So check that out to make sure you know where they're going to go, or you can look at the assembly guide, and then I'm just going to stick these on with some glue. And these are going on the front of this layer. It doesn't matter if you're not 100% accurate with them. You'll be able to see it through the next layer, the detail in the wing, when we stick that on. Again, this is just for that extra pop of colour and a little bit more detail and excitement in the fairy. I think that's about right. I don't actually have the design in front of me right now, but I'm pretty sure that is almost there. Okay, so I'm just gonna push that down a bit. And now I can turn this over and add glue on the back. This is another layer that you could use foam for if you prefer, because this is what's separating the front and back wings. So if you wanted that depth between them, then you can absolutely do that. But I'm quite conscious of how many layers we've still got to go, which is why I'm using the glue. Okay, so now we can put the wing detail on top, and this is a glue layer just because the wing is so thin and narrow, you wouldn't be able to get the foam pads in there, especially if you cut it as small as I have. Definitely would have been easier if I'd have cut it a little bit bigger, but it is still doable, which is the beauty of the design in itself. I think even though it is so many layers and I have cut it so small, it is still going together really well. And of course the Cricut cuts beautifully. Right, let's push that down. Now we're ready to stick the body of the fairy on, and you'll notice that she does actually look really cute just from these layers without the wings. She looks like a ballet dancer, and actually I have saved this as a separate file, which is going to be a ballet dancer. I will be releasing that in a week or so. So if you just want the little ballet dancer girl, then keep an eye out on my channel. That'll be out very soon. Okay, so start moving these layers off. And oh, you can see all this sticky that's come off my mat. It's giving everything together. So what we're going to do next is stick this back shoe onto the front using glue. So just turn it over and add a little bit on there. And this lines up against the edge of the design, so against the very edge of the skin tone layer. And then again, this is one that you can either glue or use foam for. I'm going to use glue for this one again because it is quite thick already. I'm not sure if you can see, but there really is a lot of depth. So I'm sticking with glue for this one. I'm conscious that I don't want it to be so thick it doesn't actually fit in my frame. If you did want to add the depth with the foam, without it getting as thick as mine is getting, you can get foam in different thicknesses. So if you bought maybe a 1mm thickness of foam pad, then you can add all the foam layers in. But it means it won't get quite so thick, so that could be an option. Next we have this body layer, and again just going to stick the little foot on, or the shoe rather. I love all the paper piecing in this design, sticking all the little bits together. It's not something I normally do too much of. Normally my designs are a little bit more simple, but as I said, I did not design this one. My lovely illustrator did, and I think it's perfect, so very happy. And once again, this one you could have used foam for, to give the depth a little bit more between the two legs and the two arms. There we go. Alrighty, we are getting there. Let's move all of this off. And, oh, can't pick it up. We've got the dress next. Here we are. I'm debating in my head if I want to use foam or glue for this. I think I'm just going to stick with it now. I'm going to use glue. But again, this is one that you could put the foam on. I'm just going to play it safe. The shadow box I've bought for this, I'm not sure how thick it is, how deep it is. So I don't want to make this too deep. And that just lines up on top. Don't worry that the arm is blue. We will be going over that in a minute. So now I've got the detail on the skirt. Put some glue on here. There we go, in all those spaces. Oh, my glue's got a little tail. Sometimes with the Kalal glue it does get a little bit stringy, a bit like a glue gun, but it doesn't happen very often. Alright, so there is that, and then the next layer is the one with the head and the arm. Ooh. Dropping things now. There we go. Put some glue on there. And this is going to form her chest and her underarm area. So there is that. And we're so nearly done now. I'm just going to do the arm next. And this arm, again, you could use the foam or you can use glue. And I'm using glue. And this just lines up against the hand that's already there. It just sort of creates that shoulder to show that she's leaning her arm across her body. Okay, onto the face. I'm really nervous about losing these tiny little eyebrows. Especially because I've got a black craft mat. Okay, so the face is made up of 2 layers. We've got a little pink to show her rosy cheeks through. And that one goes on first. If you're going to use foam for the head, use the foam on this pink one to make it stand out. And then use glue for the next one. Otherwise, if you used foam for the one with the little cheeks cut out, it creates too much shadow for the tiny gaps to be able to see the pink. It'll just be shadow through and it won't look right. Got this glue. There we are. Let's stick that on. And then we have 2 layers of hair. Got this back layer, which is the darker one. And this forms her little hair bun. There we go. And then the top layer of hair, which is the lighter colour one. Stick that on. And now we have the eyes. And like I said, you could draw them on if they are a little bit small. I'm going to glue them. So you do need just the tiniest bit of glue just to put on there, just a dab. And then I'm going to pick this up with my finger. Put it there. Now I did mean to bring my weeding tool in here so that I could maneuver it a bit easier, but I forgot. So I'm going to have to use my nail, which is kind of covered in glue. But I think that's okay. And then I'm going to do the other one. And on the design in Design Space, this has the other eye kind of over the hair. And I am going to do that. If you've used foam for the hair, then don't put the eye on top of the hair because it won't line up with the other one. Instead, just sort of put it just underneath or kind of tuck it behind the hair. Because I've used glue, it will still look okay. Oops, I just smudged that. I'm so tense right now. Okay, that has worked pretty well, I think. But yeah, if you've got a weeding tool or even a cocktail stick or something, it will help you maneuver those eyes around a bit easier. And now we have it, our beautiful little fairy on her daisy. And this is now all ready for me to put it in a shadow box, and then I can display it. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to assemble my layered fairy SVG. Don't forget, the free file is available at craftwithsarah.com/free-SVGs. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut and papercraft tutorials. Thank you for watching. Bye.